Wheels Up with Sunrise on Wheels. I'm Michelle Newman. Today's program is all about transportation. And like all Wheels Up episodes, it has 3 segments. First, I'll take you on a trip around the world, looking at some strange and odd transportation means. Next, we'll craft with Caroline, making a fun train and boat. Finally, I hope you'll play along with transportation trivia.
Throughout most of human history, transportation has meant moving people at the speed a person could walk, a horse could gallop, an ox could draw a cart, or a boat propelled by sails or oars could move through the water. It was not until the 1800s that humans harnessed steam energy and used it to move their goods and themselves at a significantly faster pace. The invention of the gas-fueled car in 1885 and the airplane in the early 1900s opened up opportunities for greatly increased speed and greater travel flexibility. Roads could go where railroads could not, and airplanes only needed runways on which to arrive and depart. While for centuries people would have spent their entire lives within 100 miles of their birthplace, after jets were introduced in the late 1950s, passengers could travel to even the most distant locations at speeds unimaginable a mere decade before. Today I thought it would be fun to take a trip around the world to look at different and unique kinds of transportation in my favorite cities. If you live in New York, you might assume that all taxis around the world are just like the canary yellow cars which have dominated the New York scene for years. They are yellow because research from the University of Chicago showed that yellow cars were involved in fewer accidents, and they stood out more in a crowded street. Did you know you could stop a taxi by hailing it? No, not like the hail that falls from the sky. There's really not much to it. You just stick out your arm above your head and pretend you're the Statue of Liberty. When the numbers on the roof of the cab are lit, it's available and should stop. In London, the black cab is as much a feature of the cityscape as the red double-decker bus. Licensed black cab drivers are really smart. They have the knowledge, the name of a series of exams they are required to take. After rigorous training, they must show they know all 25,000 streets within a 6-mile radius of Charing Cross, Trafalgar Square, and they must know how to drive to 100 of the most visited spots of the moment, museums, clubs, and restaurants. Hailing a cab in Japan must feel like interrupting a Disney parade, or at least it was my impression when I first saw a taxi cab in Japan by night. The top light, which in most places shines taxi on the rooftop, is instead a radiant glowing mini sculpture of different shapes and colors. The clopping of hooves, rattling wheels, flowing manes, and the impatient snorting of the horses are the unique 2-horse-drawn taxis called Viecher, common in Vienna, the capital and largest city of Austria. In their heyday, there were more than 1,000 of them. Today, there are just over 100 coaches, which ferry guests around Vienna. These elegant carriages are beautifully designed, fitted with plush seats, and it is a magical way to explore the inner ring of Vienna. In Calcutta, India, you can still see hand-pulled rickshaws, lightweight seats pulled by men. The speed is a little faster than walking. The advantage is he knows the shortest way to your destination and is skillful in crossing busy roads. While soon they'll be replaced by battery-operated rickshaws, it is quite the adventure. It seems as though any type of transportation is acceptable on the streets of Old Delhi in India's capital. Very common are bicycle rickshaws, a 3-wheeled bike with a bench that holds 2 passengers. Sitting in a cycle rickshaw is quite the experience. There is nothing to hold on to in front of you, giving you a sensation of feeling like you might fall forward as you wind your way on the very crowded streets. It is an amazing way to explore Chandi Chowk Market, the oldest part of the Indian capital. The place is full of lanes as thin as it gets. The rickshaw cyclist navigates the 3-wheeler through the market, its shops, vendors, people, motorcycles, and other rickshaws quite the adventure. The motorized rickshaws, also known as tuk-tuks, are prominent throughout Asia, Africa, and South America. They come in lots of different sizes with 2, 3, and 4-wheeled vehicles. Many are like a covered bicycle with a fuel-efficient lawnmower engine. The term tuk-tuk echoes the sound of its 2-stroke engine. The driver's at the front and can accommodate 2 to 3 passengers in the rear, or even more on some occasions. Open on both sides, it's often covered only when the weather is rainy or too hot. In Cuba, their auto rickshaws stand out for their peculiar coconut shape and bright yellow hue. No hands on the wheel, no feet on the pedals. A white Volvo cruises the streets of suburban Shanghai, free of any human driver. The computer system housed in the trunk quickly processes information gathered by a fast-spinning sensor atop the vehicle, calculating how many pedestrians are nearby and predicting which lane the car in front will shift into. This unmanned car is among the first self-driving taxis, or robo-taxis, permitted to carry passengers on the open roads of Shanghai, China. Beyond travel by road, the water offers some incredible adventures. The famous Star Ferry runs between Hong Kong Island and the Kowloon mainland, offering a 5-minute spectacular view of the Hong Kong skyline. The San Francisco to Sausalito Ferry is a splendid 30-minute ferry ride with views of the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz Prison, Angel Island, and the San Francisco skyline. What about taking a watercraft that hovers above the water? The hydrofoil raises the hull out of the water, giving you both an increase in speed and fuel efficiency. It was a real treat to take this hydrofoil across the Bay of Naples, from the beautiful Amalfi Coast to the island of Capri in Italy. Venice, an Italian city built on 118 small islands, is where fairy tales come to life, and the best way to navigate these 150 canals, beyond crossing many small bridges, is by boat, both row and motor. There are water buses, known as vaporetti, slow, wide, and flat to ensure the best views, and smaller, faster versions called motoscafi. For centuries, the gondola was the chief means of transportation and most common watercraft within Venice, and it is my favorite. The rowing oar, which is not fastened to the hull, is used in a sculling manner, also acting as a rudder. Thankfully, the rowing is done by the gondolier. Although most gondoliers speak a little English, don't expect them to be super chatty, as they must focus on expertly maneuvering this flat-bottomed boat through the slimmest of passageways. There's nothing quite like seeing the Rialto Bridge and listening to Italian opera on an Italian gondola. Boats are also a great way to get around the famous riverside area of Bangkok, Thailand, with its many historical monuments, temples, and architecture. There's also great for exploring the klongs, the canals, for a glimpse of Bangkok from yesteryear. Several kinds of boats, express boats, river taxis, and longtail boats run up and down the Chao Phraya River. I enjoyed the longtail boat, a bit of an adventure in itself. The distinct, narrow, beautifully crafted wooden hull is powered by the famous longtail engine, basically a car engine with a propeller shaft attached. The longtails were made famous by the chase sequence in the James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. And they can go fast when the boatman opens up the throttle. In Botswana, the Okavango Delta floods with the seasons, inspired by the people of the past who used traditional wooden makoros as a form of transport. A modern version of this dugout canoe is a relaxing way to explore the reed-lined waterways and discover smaller creatures you wouldn't typically see from a vehicle or on foot. Whether it's an aerial tramway or a gondola, few thrills rival the sensation of floating through the sky, staring at chasms and valleys thousands of feet below, and forgetting that all that stands between you and the ground is a bundle of wires strung between a series of poles. My two favorites are the Sugarloaf Mountain Gondola in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which transports you to the Christ the Redeemer statue and gives you an amazing view. The cableway to the top of Table Mountain is in Cape Town, South Africa. Traveling around 10 minutes, the cable car's rotating floor ensures all passengers get a 360-degree aerial view. Now, I simply can't talk about transportation without including trains. I've loved trains from the time I was 5, when I would travel each summer with my grandmother on the train from Kansas City to Pasadena. In Tokyo, Japan, you can travel to several other cities in Japan by their infamous bullet train. It travels at speeds of up to close to 200 miles per hour and is known for its punctuality, departs on time to the second. Comfort, relatively silent cars with spacious, always forward-facing seats. Safety and efficiency. Don't expect to be able to look at the scenery as it whizzes by, but it allows you to get to other parts of this beautiful country in no time. A much smaller and slower kind of train is in Alaska. The White Pass and Yukon route train takes us from Skagway, Alaska to Fraser, British Columbia in Canada. Built in 1898, this narrow-gauge railway begins at sea level and ascends the White Pass. While listening to stories of the miners and prospectors who made this trip on foot during the gold rush of 1897. While climbing almost 3,000 feet, we pass across steep trestles, go through long tunnels, while immersed in the stunning scenery of shimmering glaciers and towering waterfalls. It's spectacular. I was lucky enough to take a ride on one of the most famous trains in the world and one of the best train journeys in Europe, the legendary Orient Express. Traveling from Venice to London in these private compartments, they're like little bedrooms, is an amazing way to make this 24-hour journey. Eating lunch while curling around the Italian Dolomites, watching the Swiss Alps sweep by the windows while enjoying a delicious dinner, all before retiring to bed, where I was rocked to sleep as the train moved throughout the night. In the morning, we arrived for a quick stop in Paris before we proceeded to take the Channel. That's the tunnel from mainland Europe to the UK. For the last leg of the journey, we traveled aboard the British Pullman train from the white cliffs of Dover into London. Quite an amazing trip. Maybe you think regular trains are okay, but where are the lofty thrills? Well, have you ever ridden on a funicular? These inclined cable railways have weird cars that are slanted, tiered, or supported by a wedge in order to keep you upright while they transport you up steep hills. Hong Kong has a famous one to take you up to Victoria Peak. The bright red funicular tram, the 5th generation since it began, trudges past residences, and when it finally reaches the peak, you've been transported to a forested oasis with truly breathtaking views across Hong Kong's skyline and waterways. Who knows how travel will change in the future? Some of the brightest engineers in the world are racing to make science fictionist flying taxis a reality. This is the battery-powered VC-200 Volocopter, a state-of-the-art helicopter prototype by German engineers. Unlike a traditional helicopter, which uses one rotor to lift and a tail rotor to prevent the aircraft from spinning in circles, the Volocopter features 18 battery-powered rotors controlled via a single joystick. It can carry 2 passengers, has a flight time of 30 minutes, and a range of 17 miles. Really cool, right? Well, it's time for our journey around the world to look at some of my favorite types of transportation to come to an end. Do you have a favorite type or a funny story about a boat or a train? I look forward to seeing you next time.
Hi, my name is Caroline and I'm so excited to do arts and crafts with you today. Today's video is all about transportation. So today we're going to make a train craft and a boat craft because they're 2 modes of transportation. I hope you have fun. First, we're going to make the train craft. So what you will need is 1 piece of paper for your background. It could be whatever color you want. And then a few different color pieces of paper for your actual train. And then you also need scissors and glue. And then you also need some cotton balls for the steam coming out of the train. And then you also need a marker or something you can color with to make the tracks. So I'm going to use purple as my background color, but you can use whatever color you want. And first, I'm going to use my orange paper and cut out 2 squares for the back of my train. So you can fold your paper in half to make 2. And if you want, you can draw with a pencil or a marker a square first, but I'm just going to cut it out like this. Now I have my 2 squares. And now I'm going to use a different color. I'm just going to use blue. And I'm going to do 2 big circles. So I'm going to fold my paper in half and cut out a circle. So now I have my circles. And now with a different color, I'm going to cut a big rectangle. And now a smaller rectangle with a different color that can fit inside of the bigger one, like that. So now we're gonna make a shape called a trapezoid. So I'm gonna use my orange paper again, and I'm gonna draw a short line on top, and then a longer line on the bottom, and then we're gonna connect it with another line. And now I'm gonna cut this out. Now we're gonna make the steam stack, which is the part of the train where the steam comes out of. So I'm gonna use my yellow paper and my pencil, and I'm gonna draw an oval shape, like that, and then a rectangle on the bottom. And then you can erase this part in the middle. And now we're gonna cut this out. So now we're going to make another shape. This time we're gonna make a big rectangle. So I'm using my red paper, like this. And now I'm gonna use my blue and fold it in half. And now I'm gonna make 2 circles again, but they have to be smaller than the ones we made before. So they should be little circles this time. So now I'm going to move my shapes off of my paper, and now I'm going to draw my train track. So I'm going to draw it a little bit up from the bottom of the paper, so not on the very bottom. And I'm going to draw 1 line across like that. And then a little bit above it, I'm going to draw another line like this. And then I'm going to draw some straight lines across. And I'm drawing it with a black marker so that you could see it, but you can also do it with a pencil and then go over it in a black marker. So now I have my train track. Also, if you want, you can think about what would be in the background when your train is going along the tracks, and you can draw some of that in the background of your paper, like some trees or some mountains or whatever else you think would be in the background. So now I'm going to line up all my shapes so that they look like a train. So first, I'm going to use the triangle that I just made, and it's going to go in the front right here. And then my big rectangle is going to go right next to it. And then this shape will go on top. So now I glued my whole entire train together. And now I'm going to use my cotton balls, and they're going to be coming out of the steam stack. So I'm going to put some glue and put my first one. And now that's the finished train. Also, if you don't have any cotton balls, you can also use some white paper and just cut out some circles. Or you can use a white crayon and color them on. Now we're going to make the boat craft. So what you will need is a few different colored pieces of paper, scissors, glue, and something to draw with. So first, I'm going to make my boat. So I'm going to fold my paper in half this way. And then I'm going to draw with my pencil across the folded side. I'm going to draw an arc from one side to the other, just like that. In case you couldn't see it, I drew over it in a black marker. So this is what it should look like. And now I'm going to cut it out. So as you can see, it's folded across the top and it'll be able to rock like a boat. So now I'm going to make some details for my boat. So I'm going to use my blue paper and I'm going to cut out 3 circles. So you can fold your paper in half. And then again, and this is going to make 4, but you only need 3. And I'm going to cut a circle. And it shouldn't be too big. Just like that. So now I have 4, but I'm only using 3 of them. And they're going to be the windows for my boat. And then I'm going to also cut a rectangle shape. And that's going to go like on the top of my boat. Like that. So now we're going to make 2 rectangles that are going to go on top of our boat. So I'm going to use some yellow paper and cut a rectangle that's almost the length of our boat, but a little bit smaller. Like that. And now with my red paper, I'm going to cut another rectangle that's even shorter than that one. Like this. So now with my longer rectangle, I'm going to glue it on top of my boat. And it's going to go so that it's mostly coming off of it. Like that. And then my smaller rectangle is going to go on top of that. Like this. And now we can glue our circles on that we made before. These are going to be like the windows, so I'm going to glue these onto the bigger rectangle. Like that. So the rectangle that we made before is going to be one of the stacks on the top of our boat. So I'm going to cut another one out of some yellow paper. And it can be the same size. So now we can glue these onto our boat, and if you want, you can glue them on so that one looks a little bit taller than the other one. So that's what I'm going to do. So you can glue one a little bit lower than the other one so that they'll look like one is taller than the other. Like that. So now I'm going to make a life preserver that's going to go onto my boat. So I'm going to use some white paper and I'm going to cut out a circle. So now I have my circle, and sometimes it's a little bit tricky to cut a circle. So if you want, you can find something that's a circle shape, like this, like the bottom of this, and you can trace it and then cut it out so that it's a perfect circle. So now I have my circle, and to make a hole in the middle, I'm going to use my pencil and draw a circle. And then I'm going to fold it in half, just a little bit, but I'm not going to like push down all the way. And then I'm going to cut across this line. And then when you open it up, you'll have a hole in the middle. So now I'm going to use a red marker and draw some lines on the life preserver all the way around it. Like this. And now I'm going to glue it onto my boat on the side, and it's going to be, it can come off just a little bit like that. So now to make it look like our boat is in the ocean, I'm going to use some blue paper and I'm going to fold it so that it looks like it's waves. So I'm going to fold it the long way and fold it a little bit forward and then flip it, and then a little bit back and then flip and continue doing this all the way. And then you're gonna open it up, and now it looks like waves. So now you can put your boat into the ocean. So now, for some other details, I'm going to show you how to make a fish that can go in your ocean. So I'm using some blue paper for my fish, and I'm going to fold it in half so that I can make 2 fish. And I'm going to use a black marker so that you can see it a little bit better, but you can use a pencil. And I'm going to draw an oval shape for the fish's body, and then a triangle for the fish's tail. And now I'm going to cut this out. So now I'm going to draw an eye on each of my fish. And now I'm going to glue them on in the front of the ocean so that it looks like they're jumping out of the waves. So my first one is going to go here. And now my second one is going to go on the other side. Just like that. So now this is my finished boat craft. So here are both of my finished transportation crafts. I hope you had fun. Bye!
Welcome to Transportation Trivia. There are 10 questions with 4 answers, only one of which is correct. I hope you'll play along. Question number 1. In what country is Sugarloaf Mountain Gondola? A. Brazil, B. USA, C. Italy, or D. China? Which country is that beautiful Sugarloaf Mountain Gondola? And the answer is Brazil. Question number 2. Which popular vehicle in Asia takes its name from the sound of its engine? A. Putt-putt, B. Clip-clop, C. Bing-bang, or D. Tuck-tuck? What is the name of that vehicle? And the answer is Tuck-tuck. Question number 3. Why are taxis yellow in New York City? A. Because it's a legal requirement. B. Because they want to be different from London's black cabs. C. Because it helps them stand out. Or D. Because it's the president's favorite color. What do you think? Answers, please. And the answer is C. Because it helps them to stand out. Question number 4. Name the small 2-wheeled cart with 2 long poles pulled by 1 or 2 people. A. Rickshaw, B. Wheelbarrow, C. Wagon, or D. Carriage? That small 2-wheeled cart. And the answers please. The answer is A. Rickshaw. Question number 5. What are inclined cable railways with weird cars that are slanted or tiered called? A. Cable car, B. Streetcar, C. Tram, or D. Funicular? Look at that picture. It is kind of a funny thing. And answers, please. And the answer is, it's D. It's a funicular, and it's so much fun. Question number 6. In Bangkok, you can take this type of boat. A skinny boat, B. a banana boat, C. a long-tail boat, or D. a hot dog boat? In Bangkok, Thailand, which boat would you be able to ride on? And the answer is C. Long-tail boat. Question number 7. What is the flying taxi called that we saw in the movie? So cool. A. an aero taxi, B. a volocopter, C. a taxi jet, or D. Uber Air? These all have good names, but only one of them is the correct answer, and the answer is it's a volocopter. Really cool. Question number 8. The bullet train in Japan is known for A. its comfort, B, its speed, C, its punctuality, or D, all of the above? I had such a fun trip going from Tokyo to Kyoto. And the answer is all of the above. They are timely to the second. Question number 9. Which city is home to the gondola? Is it A, Rome, B, Tokyo, C, Miami, or D, Venice? Oh, those gondolas are so much fun. And all those bridges and so many little canals. And the answer is D, Venice. Our last and final question, question number 10. What is the name of the test that London taxi drivers are required to take in order to obtain a license to drive one of the city's black cabs? Is it A, the smarts, B, the knowledge, C, the answer, or D, the knack? What is that test called? And it's called B, the knowledge. Well, thanks so much for playing trivia. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.